guys see this? In a new interview, Trump gave himself an A+++++ on the economy. Once again, this is what happens when you get rid of the Department of Education. This is plus. Okay, stop.
Ah, yes. The hilarity never stops in New York City, does it? It gets funny everywhere you go, really. I've got, Congressman Hank Johnson. Hank Johnson, he's the guy who was afraid the island of Guam was going to flip over if we put too many Marines on one side of the island, because he's no geologist. No geologist is he. Got a Supreme Court justice who's not a biologist, and got a member of the House from Georgia who's definitely not a geologist. Well, he was hanging out with friendly lefties, and he declared the United States to be the Great Satan. The Great Satan. He's joined the jihad. Not a bright man. The world's number one bully. Bully, they love that. That's a term that belongs in school with children in grade school, bully, but Democrats have adopted that in grown-up world in the last few years. Georgia Democrat refers to the United States as world's number one bully and the Great Satan. That's, of course, what the Ayatollahs call the United States of America. They have since they committed a series of war crimes, taking over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. 1979, there's still an empty building on Embassy Row in Washington, D.C. that used to be the Iranian Embassy, and it's been empty ever since. A lot of cobwebs in there, a lot of spiders, I think. So, we got Hank Johnson. He's on camera. He's on camera. The United States has indeed become the Great Satan, just like who was it that said he has no idea who called us the Great Satan? Not a bright man. So we've got that going. It's a lot of fun. And I'll play that for you because, the Democrats, those crazy, wacky, rascally Democrats, aren't they nuts? President Trump was in Pennsylvania last night, and it wasn't yesterday, it was last night. He flew out of Washington, out of Andrews in the dark aboard Air Force One, and went to Pennsylvania, held a big rally. Everybody loved it. The cheers were great. Even the news media couldn't say, they lied that at the Kennedy Center. I was at the Kennedy Center honors on Sunday night, and President Trump was there. And he was applauded every time he spoke, and everybody got all his jokes and laughed at all his jokes. Then I saw multiple media reports saying that, the crowd has turned on Trump at the Kennedy Center because they lie about everything. If they're talking, they're lying. If they're typing, they're lying. If they're sitting there silently, then they're thinking dishonest things. So we've got that. But the president last night in Pennsylvania talking about the state of the economy and all that good stuff. And in the meantime, the Democrats, and we've got audio from the president in Pennsylvania for you. And one of the things we played the audio for you yesterday where the president said, at NATO, they call me daddy. They call me daddy, Big Daddy NATO. And that was darn funny. It came up again. And it turns out that the head of NATO did call President Trump daddy. But because somebody's got to be the grown-up in the room when it comes to our European allies not paying their fair share and expecting us to do all the heavy lifting and the light lifting and cleaning up after. They're quite something. But the president last night was in rare form as he, I don't know how you're always in rare form, but he's always in rare form. Seems contradictory, but not in the case of Donald Trump. It was great stuff. And some of the headlines, NATO chief calls Trump daddy, the Politico wrote months ago now. Trump talks defense spending. NATO calls me daddy is the headline. And that has the Democrats very upset because, they know who their daddy is. And it's something else altogether. Donald Trump grades economy A++++. That's several. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus. I think I fell short. It's plus. That's A+. The economy. The president has to make his own case. You may remember that the economy was a catastrophe under Joe Biden. Grocery store shelves were bare. Gasoline was $500 a gallon, and it was 9.1% inflation. And the news media never said, boy, the economy is really rough out here, isn't it? You're going to find people, they weren't pushing this whole, the economy, they got to push the economy's bad because they've reverted to the old James Carville line, it's the economy stupid. It's always the economy stupid. But we've got some updates on that. And there, is a bit of up and down. There always is because it's an economy, after all. But a funny Rosie O'Donnell story, too, because the people of the Washington Post, they love Rosie O'Donnell. She left the United States and went to Ireland. They're not very happy that she went to Ireland. Not in Ireland are they happy about that, but it's great. Donald Trump's first administration took an emotional toll on Rosie O'Donnell. She didn't think she could endure a second term. This time, O'Donnell had a plan. She moved to Ireland. Her brother Eddie says it was the best decision she's made, I think, in her life. Honestly. Well, I don't think she's made a lot of good decisions. I mean, that's not setting the bar very high. Hey, Rosie O'Donnell made a good decision. She's like 70, and she finally got around to making a good decision. And I got to say, her leaving the country, I think that is a good decision for the country and for all of us. Isn't that great? And Rosie O'Donnell moved to Ireland to escape Trump. Did it work? The Washington Post, they're all over it. Isn't it her daughter, who's like her transgender daughter or something, who's moving back to the United States from Ireland? Didn't I see that recently? And aren't they all transgender? Isn't that one of the things about that? And in the meantime, in between time, ain't those drug smugglers got fun? Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King. They got the headline here at CNN, Schumer, : now that is appropriate, isn't it? Hegseth won't commit to full boat strike video release. They want, now let's get all the video releases of Obama killing American citizens overseas in drone strikes and Obama killing civilians by the scores and scores, probably by the hundreds in his drone strikes. I want all those videos released. The public must see those videos. We have a right to it. We paid for those videos. I demand those videos be released. This is what Republicans on the Hill need to do when the Lizard King comes out with his Communist Party lizard stuff. Oh, we're demanding the release of the second strike. So you're okay with the first strike on the boat, is that right? The first strike, you're good with that one. That's solid. But when the drug smugglers survived the first the strike and they slither back to the boat, which is still loaded with drugs that could still be transported to the United States to kill your daughter in a fatal drug overdose. Now the Democrats, now they're rankled. Now they're riled up. So Schumer is very angry. They got the classified briefing. Maybe they saw the videos, but maybe not, because then they just go to CNN and start lying about them, which is what they can reliably be trusted to do in every instance. Back when I was working at the Pentagon, which I did for a decade, covering the Pentagon, the rule was in the Pentagon, anything that was briefed to Congress was considered to be public information because they would leak it before the Pentagon briefers drove back to the Pentagon. Before the cars reached the Pentagon after the congressional briefing, it would have been leaked to the New York Times, to the Washington Post, to CNN, and it would be half true. It would just be because it's always the Democrats, and it would all be negative anti-American stuff. So, yeah, Schumer says Hegseth won't commit to the full boat strike video release. Key Dem reacts. Just release the video, just so we could move on. They're not planning on moving on. They're planning on a civil war for the next 3.5 years and against our military because they're pro-drug cartels. The Democrat Party, they're pro-drug cartels. And I went and did a bit of background research. Fake fact checkers. Did Obama carry out drone strikes without congressional approval? And I want to share that with you because some interesting stuff in there. Also in the striking the drug traffickers in the Gulf of America and the Caribbean. 87 people have been killed, apparently, which is in the same period of time, I think, fewer than have been murdered in Chicago. But the Democrats don't care about the Americans being gunned down in Chicago. Let's throw in the drug overdoses, too. How many, in the time that 87 drug traffickers have been killed in U.S. military strikes in the Caribbean, how many Americans have died of fatal drug overdoses in the same period of time? And the Democrats, the answer to that is, who cares? The Chuck Schumer response to that is that he doesn't care. That's not what he cares about. He's not on our side. Isn't that amazing? Also, speaking of Democrats, a pair of twins that you might think are illegal aliens by looking at them and listening to their names. But the news reports say they're not illegal aliens, but their pictures smell like illegal aliens. Twins, they're twin brothers. Twins arrested in a plot to hang the tyrant Trump administration official and shoot ICE officers. And they had an AR-15 style rifle, a 12-gauge shotgun planning on. This is the Democrat Party inspired these brothers who might as well be illegal aliens. And they were plotting to kill the beautiful, lovely, and talented Tricia McLaughlin, who is the Assistant Secretary, Department of Homeland Security for Public Affairs. She's the spokeswoman. And she is, of course, strikingly beautiful, and she's wonderful spokeswoman and very bright and very articulate, and she comes out and tells the truth. And so a couple of Democrats plotted to kidnap her, torture her, and murder her. And they've been arrested, and they were planning on shooting ICE agents, too. And they're inspired by the Democratic Party, because the Democrat Party is a violent political hellhole of a party, and they're here in the United States of America. They are the Democrat Party. Yeah, so these twins arrested in plot to hang the tyrant Trump official, who you probably know from the television, Tricia McLaughlin. And she's wonderful, and the Democrats, they're murderous, bloodthirsty savages. And then Hank Johnson says that we're the great Satan. See, because the Democrat Party is at war against us. Don't worry about Iran. Don't worry about Putin when it comes to the United States. Worry about the Democratic Party. They're on the side of Satan. They're on the side of the Iranian Ayatollahs, not the people of Iran. You may remember during Obama there was a revolution going on there, and Obama didn't lift a finger to help the revolutionaries who wanted to overthrow the tyrants of the Ayatollahs regime. And what did Obama do? He attacked anybody that pointed it out. He's not on the side of civilization. He's the left. Just amazing stuff. Yeah, so we got a lot going on. Also, there's more too, because the Democrats in Illinois and the Democrats in Montgomery County, Maryland, are both fighting to defend illegal aliens, building laws. And I want to share this with you. The Democrat governor in Illinois, the Democrats running Montgomery County, Maryland, just 2 blocks from where I sit right now, they're all fighting to defend illegal aliens. They say immigrants. Well, there's no problem with immigrants. It's illegal immigrants. It's like no problem with drivers. It's drunk drivers, you maroons. Honestly, you people, what's the matter with you people? I am telling you. Yes, sir. And, oh, wait a minute. Hey, look, I'm getting help here from law enforcement. And that is, let's see, Chicago murders since September. Looks like there have been 85 people murdered. 85 people murdered, died of murder in Chicago since we started striking the drug boats in the Gulf of America and the Caribbean. And 87 people killed in strikes on international drug cartels. The Democrats are spitting mad, fighting mad. They want to fight back against anybody that would blow up members of the drug cartels out of Latin America, Tony Montana and the gang. The Democrats, they're not our fans. They're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. Yeah, and the number of murders in Chicago, 85. Democrats are angry because 87 drug traffickers have been killed in U.S. airstrikes in the same period of time. And this number of the murders in Chicago, of course, does not include the number of fatal drug overdoses in Chicago over the same period of time. The Democrats, they're not on the side of America. Isn't that amazing? And here's another, speaking of Iran, this is hilarious. We are hosting the World Cup. It's a soccer match. Kick the ball, kick, right? And Seattle, they're playing soccer matches all over the country. Seattle in Washington, they're planning on hosting a big soccer tournament, and in Seattle. And they're doing it during Pride Month. That's gay pride. It's not, can't be proud of America or anything. But Gay Pride Month, and the people running the operation, they decided which national teams will play in Seattle for their Pride. It's their whole thing is based on Pride, Seattle Pride Month World Cup match, and it's the Pride match. You'll never guess who they picked to play in the Pride match. That's coming up. There are a couple of things that made me laugh in conjunction with one another. And the New York Times has a story today. Seattle plans pride match at Soccer World Cup. And that's that. I want to pause the rest of the headline for just a moment because they see the FIFA or whoever, the World Cup people, they decide who's going to play which teams, national teams, World Cup. There are national teams from all over the world that get together and play and it can be interesting in the last 3 minutes of the last match if it's a tie, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's not very interesting. But the people, the FIFA, the World Cup people, they have announced who will be playing where in what city, at what phase, what stage, right? So the New York Times headline, Seattle plans pride match, meaning gay pride. They use the word pride and they assume that the word gay precedes it. They don't have to say anything else. Seattle plans pride match at Soccer World Cup, infuriating Iran and Egypt. I'm sorry, what? Why would that infuriate Iran and Egypt? The two countries which criminalize homosexuality and impose severe punishments for it were picked to play on a day celebrating LGBTQ communities. Now, they weren't trying to be funny, I don't think, although maybe they were. They're completely without a sense of humor, and it just may be a slightly different sense of humor. But this is darn funny. The people at King 5 in Seattle. Seattle's World Cup pride match draws international backlash from Egypt, Iran. Now, I was thinking earlier today, and I didn't even communicate it to Michael, we should pull audio of Iran hanging people that they say are gay in public squares. They like to hang them from construction cranes and things like that, tie their hands behind their back and hang them and hoist them up. And the crowd chants, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Thousands and thousands chant Allahu Akbar while the guys are squirming around and kicking their feet and trying to get their hands untied while they're hanging them to death for the crowd to enjoy. And that's Iran when it comes to the homosexuality thing. Egypt, they don't have any Stonewall taverns there either. Not a lot of open that stuff going on. So the controversy stems from last week's FIFA, the international football. They call it football. We know that it's just soccer, which selected two countries where homosexuality faces legal consequences to play in their pride match. Iran and... But wait, that reminds me of Democrat Congressman Hank Johnson, who thinks that islands can flip over because has he joined the jihad? Is he in cahoots with the Ayatollahs now? That's coming up.
Imagine, Mr. Speaker, a world without balloons.
Imagine, Mr. Speaker, a world without balloons. Democrat member of the House of Representatives, the U.S. Congress, Hank Johnson, not the sharpest bulb in the constellation. That's a double mixed metaphor. I recognize that. He's quite something. He's also the guy that told us, you may remember, that he was concerned with a 4-star Navy admiral testifying before the House committee, talking about moving Marines to Guam, the island of Guam, and he was terrified that if we move too many Marines to the island of Guam, that the island might flip over like a Frisbee in a swimming pool.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
And capsize. The admiral looked around like he thought somebody was playing a joke on him, and he had to collect himself for a moment. And he said something like, "That's not a concern, Congressman, because we know that the island is attached to the ocean floor, and it's not a Frisbee in a swimming pool, because we're not very severely mentally impaired." Right? What was the abbreviation we came up with yesterday? The acronym. We have to go back to that. Severely mentally impaired Democrats. SMIDS. Is that what it was? Severely mentally impaired Democrats. SMIDS. No more SMIDS. Hank Johnson is definitely a SMID. But let's get to Hank Johnson, because Hank Johnson, always a severely mentally impaired Democrat, a SMID. He sat down with a radical extremist, communist, anti-American jihadi who's perfectly mainstream Democrat, Dean Obadiah. He used to be a radical fringe figure in American political and media life. Now he's entirely mainstream. And he had Democrat Congressman Hank Johnson on. And you know what they wanted to talk about? The terrible United States of America blowing up international drug cartel members on boats loaded with drugs headed for the United States of America. And again, it's wackadoodle-doo, these Democrats. I did a couple of quick looks. I was looking at Chicago and just since President Trump and the Trump administration started blowing up the drug boats headed for the United States to kill tens of thousands of people every year, the Democrats are now in favor of the international drug cartels. I guess they were before, but now they're fully out of the closet on the being pro-Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, pro-drug traffickers, pro-drug boats making it to the United States. And they're like, oh, you can't just blow up international drug cartel members. They have rights, too. Well, no, actually, they don't. But took a look, and it looks like probably 85 people in Chicago have been murdered since President Trump started blowing up the drug trafficking boats. And the news media is angry that maybe 87 drug traffickers have been blown up. And that's terrible. Also in Chicago, so far this year, I think the number is 392 people murdered in Chicago. Democrats don't have anything to say about that. But if drug traffickers are blown up by U.S. military, then the Democrats are very, very angry. I also did a quick look at the Illinois Department of Health, or whatever this is, .gov. Opioids in Illinois, 3,261 fatal drug overdoses in 2022. They haven't updated since then because they're Democrats. And the fatal drug overdoses, 83% involved opioids. And so they keep some statistics. And you've got 3,341. What is this? That's the percentage increase. Just amazing. So they got people dying from fatal drug overdoses all over the place, people dying from murders all over the place. I'm just doing Chicago, not the entire country, the United States. But they're very angry. I've got the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Canada continues to monitor U.S. boat strikes in Caribbean as questions swirl and allies squirm. Not very good allies, but U.S. has placed Canada in an impossible position, military expert argues. They went and talked to a left-wing military expert, and they always say that. And this Canadian piece says that, according to the U.S. government, at least 87 people have been killed in nearly 24 strikes. I think it's 22 strikes. U.S. strikes in the Caribbean since September. That's a great Earth, Wind, and Fire song. We should play that in here. Isn't that great? So we got 87. But the Democrats, when it comes to Chicago, they really couldn't possibly care less. They don't care about human life. They're the left, because 85 killed in Chicago, no big deal. 3,000-something fatal drug overdoses in Chicago in a year. They don't care. Another 390-something murdered in Chicago so far this year, and the Democrats don't care. They genuinely don't care. But what they want to do is go after the U.S. military and make them into the bad guys. Now, with that said, let's go back to Dean Obadiah talking to Democrat Congressman Hank Johnson, who thinks that islands in the Pacific flip over if you put too many people on one side of the island. Not a bright man. Who wants us to lamentingly imagine a world without balloons, because he has the brain of a 4-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old, and he was invited to appear on this video, whatever, online podcast. Dean Obadiah, radical extremist, mainstream Democrat, and he's got the United States is real bad for blowing up those drug traffickers. Isn't the United States terrible?
We don't have any penalty in America for someone, even if they were selling drugs, that you would execute them. There's no death penalty that I'm aware of. And even if there was, you're going to have some due process. It's not a situation where you say, I'm not going to show you proof, but just trust me, this person's a drug dealer, and we're going to just kill them. And if there's survivors, we're going to kill the survivors of the initial strikes as well. This is not what the United States of America is supposed to be about. I don't know how this is playing out on the world stage, because I haven't spoken to people in other countries yet. But this is awful for our nation.
Yet,
this is defining us as some kind of like a Putin-esque type of nation.
we're Putin-esque. Yeah. We're a Putin-esque kind of nation. He was very satisfied with himself. He thought that was very well articulated. It's low IQ theater everywhere you look. And Hank Johnson was sitting there nodding in agreement. Yeah, we're Putin-esque. We can't just shoot drug dealers on the street. We depend on drug dealers to shoot each other on the street. That's why there are 650 murders in Chicago every year. And they're all Democrats pulling the trigger and almost all taking the bullets. Never mind that. Democrat Congressman Hank Johnson wants to imagine a world without balloons.
Yeah, we are the world's #1 bully. And we're using our immense, unrivaled power to rule over those who have less power. And we're doing it with impunity. And this sends a shocking message to the world that America is indeed what did they used to call the great hand of Satan or something like that?
The great hand of Satan, or what they used to. Who are they? He's talking about the Ayatollahs in Iran. Here's Hank Johnson. He just joined ISIS.
America, under the Trump regime, is demonstrating that moniker was entirely accurate. The great Satan. That's what we have become in this country.
That's right. We have become in this country the great Satan, just as the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said, just as old stinky Ahmadinejad said, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the great Satan. And the Democrat Party has joined the ranks of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Revolution in Tehran because they are the enemies of the United States of America. Hank Johnson is too stupid. He used a word there I thought was kind of big for him. I was impressed. He used a polysyllabic word. And then, of course, it does beg the question that, where were you when President Barack Obama was bombing people all over the world in drone strikes and killing hundreds of innocent bystanders who were civilians, according to your precious international organizations? And a left-wing group called Factually has a page. Did Obama carry out drone strikes without congressional approval? If so, what were the targets? And these attacks, well, they were Muslims, of course. Were there any civilians injured? The answer, well, injured and killed by the scores. And for Democrats trying to follow along, scores means a score is a group of 20 people. See, in this context, a group of scores and a group of 20. And here it is. Obama apologized for the drone killings of two Western victims, and he targeted Anwar al-Awlaki, an American Muslim in Yemen, and blew him up in a drone strike, knowing that he was an American citizen with no due process. And that's an actual American citizen. And then he came back and killed Anwar al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son in a follow-on strike. That was the double tap on the al-Awlaki family. Isn't that amazing? But it turns out that Barack Obama authorized 563 strikes, according to Factually, largely by drones, targeting Pakistan, Somalia. Oh, no, guess whose family probably got hit there? And Yemen during his 2 terms, representing 10 times more airstrikes than his predecessor, George W. Bush. But when Democrats do it, it's fine, you see, because they only kill the right people, American citizens and Muslims and all that good stuff. Aren't they amazing? So Barack Obama, with his, they according to the estimates, this accounting, he killed maybe 807 civilians across his strikes, his more than 500 drone strikes, 563 drone strikes, and total silence from the New York Times, from MS-13, DNC, from CNN, from the Washington Post, from Chuck Schumer, from Hank Johnson, from Dean Obadiah. That's all fine because they'll kill the world before they're done. They're the left, and nobody kills like the left. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. So 87 That's the number that has been suggested by the Trump administration. Drug traffickers may have been killed in these strikes, perhaps a couple of dozen strikes on the drug boats, maybe a little fewer, slightly fewer than a couple of dozen. And now the Democrats are really angry. And Chuck Schumer was on Capitol Hill yesterday. He was briefed by the Pentagon, and he immediately, the Pentagon briefers were still driving back to the Pentagon when Schumer went and found the CNN camera and started lying to them and giving half-baked bits of the classified briefing that he got because he's an extremely corrupt man. Now, let's go to, got a Luigi Mangione update for you, too, because he's a Democrat. It's all Democrat news. Chuck Schumer yesterday on Capitol Hill. The bad guys are the United States of America. We are the great Satan. We are the world's biggest bully. We are shooting people in the head without due process, Dean Obadiah. The Democrat Party is at war against our culture and against our civilization and against our military. Here's Chuck Schumer. Hey, I'm going to get a classified briefing, and then I'm going to come leak it to you.
Secretaries Hegseth and Rubio and top officials will brief the Gang of Eight, and I'll be there. I plan to confront Secretary Hegseth on exactly what the hell is going on in the Caribbean.
Yeah, what the hell?
I plan to
What's
demand
going on in
Secretary
Chicago?
Hegseth
Rectum.
give the total, unedited videos of what happened in the September 2nd boat strikes.
Unedited.
Trump originally agreed to do this, but now they're afraid. What's Hegseth hiding?
They know that you are so virulently jihadi, communist, anti-American, and anti-American military that you will immediately leak it to communist China and to the enemies of America because you are one of the enemies of America. I think that's the short answer. So he said they're going to come, and then, in fact, the Pentagon briefers did come to the Capitol and brief these miscreants. And Schumer got the briefing and then immediately sprinted, to the extent that he can, back to the TV cameras to start illegally leaking what he was just told and to misrepresent what he was told in a way that is most detrimental to the U.S. military.
And second, I will demand of Rubio and Hegseth what the hell is going on in the Caribbean and in Venezuela. What are their plans? How far do they plan to go?
Yeah, they should tell you what the future will hold and how that's going to happen. And then he came back to cameras after the briefing.
It was a very unsatisfying briefing. Would he let every member of Congress see
hoping for sex.
The unedited videos of the September 2nd strike? His answer, we have to study it. In terms of Venezuela, I asked them what their strategy is and did not get satisfying answers at all.
Didn't get satisfying answers at all. So he got answers, just not the answers that he wanted. See, they're not he got answers. He said they're just not satisfying at all because, Democrat things, usually they got a little mogambo during these briefings. That's Schumer. He is angry. He's unsatisfied. He got the briefing, but he was unsatisfied with it. And the Democrats, you know what they want? Justice for drug traffickers. These are the people that burned our country down over George Floyd. But a young woman with the National Guard is gunned down in Washington, D.C., and not a peep out of the Democrats. 2 Americans, one an employee at the Israeli embassy, gunned down at a Jewish museum on the sidewalks of Washington, D.C., not a peep out of the Democrats. A healthcare insurance company CEO gunned down on the sidewalks of New York City all by Democrats for political reasons. Not a peep out of the Democrats. Well, there is a peep. They'd made a hero out of the assassin, out of the killer, Luigi Mangione, who's back in court again, and Democrat girls will be outside swooning for him like he's the Beatles. We're at 888-630-9625.
The great Satan. That's what we have become in this country.
All right, let us go to the top. I've got a bit more Hank Johnson. He wants American military and civilian leaders to be prosecuted in courts for murder and war crimes for taking on the drug cartels because they are pro-drug cartel and they are pro fatal drug overdoses of your daughter and your grandmother. They're not on your side. Let's go to the phones, Michael. Let's go to Hoke, calling from Round Hill, Virginia. Hoke, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris. So after I make my comment, I have a question that's going to scare you, but I can't look it up right now because I'm driving, but there was someone from the UK yesterday, a government official, who said that he wishes they had the authority to blow up the drug runners before they reach the shore.
Huh. Well, you know,
I can't remember who it was.
They used to defend themselves in Great Britain. They kind of gave that up. But I tell you what, I'm going to go look for that because you brought it up, Hoke.
Yep. Now my question for you, it's going to scare you a little bit, and I'm sorry in advance.
I'm scared already.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Hank Johnson and Jasmine Crockett procreated?
Huh. Wait a minute. Then the Democrats would have their next presidential candidate, and they had Hank Johnson, and the Democrats, they've created kind of an anti-super race. They've created the dumbest species. I think they are a subspecies, aren't they, Hook?
I think so, but they're both so stupid that their child would have to be brilliant because they couldn't combine that DNA and make anything any more stupid.
Might want to check their DNA before they're allowed to procreate to see if it would be inbreeding. Might be, they might be more closely related than we might imagine going in. Pretty amazing stuff. I got to tell you, Hoke, between and they've got them all over the place, running for the Senate in Texas, and we've got the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars and the Hank Johnsons, the Democrats. They should probably start setting the bar a little higher, I think, for the U.S. Congress and now for the Senate, because they've got they just keep lowering the bar on everything. Every election cycle, the bar gets a little lower. They're like Satan. Oh, speaking of, I got the Satan update. Hank Johnson, the Democrats, and who they want to hang from trees coming up.